All right, so you're probably thinking about how to make sure your retirement savings can really last.
Especially with how things are going with the economy.
Exactly. Like maybe you sold your business
Right.
and now you're like, okay, what do I do to protect all this?
Yeah, how do I protect it?
We're going to be looking at gold IRAs.
Yes,
So that's something that's been getting more popular.
it has been.
Gold has this image of being a safe haven,
Right.
but how does that actually play out when you're thinking about retirement?
Right. Well, I think, we've all spent a lot of time thinking about, diversifying
Oh, yeah?
with stocks and bonds. That's kind of the traditional thing.
Right.
But when you look back and you think about what happened in 2008
Oh, yeah.
and, more recently the pandemic,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder if there are other things.
Is there something else that I can do to protect myself?
Right. Is there another layer
Yeah.
you can add?
Yeah, how can I fortify this even more?
Exactly.
So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Like, gold historically has been seen as that. But how does it,
Does it actually work?
yeah, and how does that fit in with everything else?
Well, I think the key here is really understanding how gold behaves
Okay.
compared to these other assets.
Right.
Stocks and bonds represent ownership
Mm.
in a company or a debt obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Gold is tangible.
So it's not just a number on the screen.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's something you can hold.
Yeah, and it has intrinsic value because it is a commodity
Okay.
with a finite supply.
So that's that historical context, but how do we put that into,
Yet, an actual plan.
yeah, what is a gold IRA?
So a gold IRA is a self-directed IRA
Okay.
that allows you to hold physical gold
Okay.
as part of your retirement savings.
Got it.
And that can be bullion coins, bars,
So it functions kind of like a Roth IRA,
similar.
but instead
For assets.
of those, you're investing
Gold.
in actual gold.
Oh.
So you still get all the tax advantages and everything.
Right.
But there's a twist.
There's a twist. You can't keep it at home.
Oh, really?
You have to store it
Oh, interesting.
in an IRS-approved depository.
So there's a whole system in place
There is.
to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Right. It's for security and regulatory purposes.
Okay, so let's get down to it.
Yeah.
Why are these becoming so popular?
Yeah.
Why are people interested in these?
Well, one of the biggest appeals is the potential to hedge against inflation,
Okay.
which we know is a major concern for retirees.
Uh-huh. Because you're on a fixed income.
On a fixed income, and as the cost of living goes up,
Right.
your purchasing power erodes.
Yeah.
But gold has historically held its value pretty well
Okay.
during those times.
So it's like a safeguard against,
Yeah,
increasing prices.
right. It's about preserving the value
Yeah.
of your savings over the long term.
Long term. Okay, cool.
Another advantage is the potential for wealth preservation during those times of uncertainty.
And we've seen that like in the stock market.
Oh.
It can be very volatile, especially when
Especially during a
a
recession.
global crisis or something.
Right. So while stocks are fluctuating dramatically,
Uh-huh.
gold tends to be less correlated to the stock market.
Interesting.
It may hold steady or even rise in value.
So it's that diversification.
Yeah, it's a counterbalance.
You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And you're reducing your portfolio risk
Okay.
and creating that more resilient retirement plan.
So when I first heard about this, I thought it was only for like the super rich,
Yeah,
like people who are really into gold coins.
I think that's a common misconception.
Oh.
It's accessible to anyone with an IRA or a 401k.
So it's not about becoming like a gold bug.
No.
It's about adding another tool
Right.
in my toolbox.
It's a strategy.
Okay.
It's all about finding the right mix of assets that align with your goals
Okay.
and your risk tolerance.
This is making a lot of sense.
Good.
But I'm also hearing from some people who are worried about the fees. They're saying, oh, these are expensive to set up.
Well, just like any investment, there are costs involved.
Right.
And it's really important to understand those
Right.
before you make a decision.
Yeah.
With gold IRAs, you typically have custodial fees for managing the account
Okay.
and storage fees for storing the gold.
So you're paying for the expertise
Yeah.
of the custodian
Yeah. You're paying for the security
to make sure everything is safe and sound.
of a specialized depository.
Gotcha.
But the fees are usually quite reasonable,
Yeah. Okay.
especially when you consider the potential benefits.
Yeah.
It's important to shop around and compare.
That's always good advice.
Yeah.
So how do you know who to trust?
Yeah,
There are a lot of companies out there promoting this.
there are.
How do you know if they're legit?
Yeah. How do you separate the reputable providers from the ones that maybe aren't?
Right, from the ones that are going to
Yeah,
maybe try to take advantage.
right.
Unfortunately, that happens
It does.
when money's involved.
It does.
People try to take advantage.
It's unfortunate, but it's true.
So how do we navigate that?
Well, it really boils down to research and due diligence.
Okay.
One of the first things you should look for is a company with a solid track record,
Okay.
a strong reputation.
So like checking online reviews for a restaurant.
Exactly.
You want to see what other people are saying.
Yeah. How long have they been in business?
Okay.
What are the customer reviews saying?
What are their experiences?
Yes. You also want to make sure they have transparent fee structures.
Okay, so no hidden fees or surprises.
Exactly.
Okay, I like
A
it.
reputable provider will be upfront about all the costs involved.
What about customer service?
Absolutely.
Is that something I should be considering?
You want a company that's responsive to your questions, to your concerns. A team that can guide you,
Yeah.
provide support when you need it.
Okay, so it's kind of like
It's a partnership.
yeah, it's a long-term thing.
It is.
Track record, transparency, customer service.
Uh-huh.
Anything else?
Don't forget compliance.
Oh, right, yeah.
Make sure the provider is adhering to all IRS regulations.
Because you don't want to run into problems down the road.
You don't want any penalties or tax issues.
So compliance is key.
Yes, you can usually find this information on their website
Okay.
or by contacting them directly.
So we've covered how they work, how to choose a provider.
Yes.
What about some real-life examples of
Okay.
how these have benefited people?
Let's take Bob and Susan.
Okay.
They recently sold their accounting practice
Okay.
for a good amount of money.
Right.
They're ready to retire,
Good for them.
but they're a little apprehensive about what to do with this money.
Yeah, I can imagine it's kind of,
It's bittersweet.
yeah, you're excited, but you're also nervous
Right.
to make the right moves.
Right. Their advisor recommends allocating a portion of their proceeds
Uh-huh.
to a gold IRA
Okay.
to create a buffer
Yeah.
against potential market volatility and inflation.
So it's part of their overall strategy, but they're really focusing on protecting what they've earned.
Yes.
Let's look at Emily.
Okay.
She's been investing in her 401k
Mhm.
for years,
Mm-hmm.
but she's a little uneasy after that market downturn in 2020.
Right.
I think we all felt that a little bit.
I think we did.
You see your savings take a hit, and it's like, oh.
It's unsettling.
Yeah.
So she starts exploring ways to add stability.
Yeah, okay.
And she comes across this idea
Of gold IRA.
of gold IRAs.
Interesting.
The idea of diversifying with an asset that has held its value during those downturns
Uh-huh.
appealed to her.
So for her, it's more about that protection and
Right.
feeling more secure.
Yeah, feeling confident
Yeah.
in her ability to weather those future storms
Yeah.
and maintain her financial security.
Okay, so those are two good examples.
Two different situations.
Yeah, of how these can be useful.
Yeah.
What are some of the questions that people have about these?
What are people wondering?
One of the things I keep hearing is, can you actually hold the gold
Right. Can you hold it?
in a gold IRA?
Yeah, that's the point.
Is that allowed?
You're investing in physical gold,
Okay.
not a paper representation of it.
So I can't just buy any gold coin
Yeah.
or bar and just stick it in there.
The IRS has standards for the purity,
Okay.
the fineness of gold.
Uh-huh.
It needs to be investment-grade gold bullion,
Got it.
coins or bars that meet a certain specification.
Okay, so there are rules
There are.
to keep everything legit.
Right.
What about insurance?
Yes.
If it's being held somewhere, is it insured?
Reputable depositories will have insurance policies
Okay.
to protect those holdings.
So that's something I want to ask about
Absolutely.
when I'm choosing a depository.
When choosing a provider
Yeah.
and a depository,
Okay.
it's definitely something to inquire about.
How do I transfer funds from an existing IRA?
So it's a fairly straightforward process.
Okay.
It's called a rollover.
Okay.
You're moving funds from a traditional IRA or 401k
Yeah.
into a new gold IRA account.
So I don't have to start from scratch.
You don't.
I can use what I already have
You can.
to invest in this.
Right. Okay, cool.
And a reputable provider will guide you through the steps,
Yeah.
and they'll handle the transfer of funds and the purchase of the gold.
They'll take care of it for me.
Uh-huh.
So one of the advantages is the tax-deferred growth.
Yes.
Does that apply to gold IRAs as well?
Yes, they offer similar tax advantages
Okay.
to traditional IRAs.
Okay.
Your contributions may be tax deductible,
Uh-huh.
and your investments grow tax deferred
Until I retire.
until you withdraw them in retirement.
So I'm delaying paying those taxes
You are.
until later.
Yes.
What if I have a Roth IRA?
You can also have a Roth Gold IRA.
Oh, cool.
The tax structure mirrors that of a traditional Roth IRA.
So it's the same idea.
It is.
I can either pay the taxes now or later,
Correct.
depending on what my needs are.
It all comes down to your individual tax situation and your long-term financial goals.
Okay, this is fantastic.
We've covered so much
We have
about what a gold IRA is,
the benefits.
the benefits, how to choose a provider.
And we've dispelled some myths,
Yeah.
like they're only for the wealthy.
Right? Or they're too complicated?
Exactly.
It seems like there are a lot of potential benefits,
There are.
especially for people who are looking to protect their wealth
I think that's a fair assessment.
and make sure that their retirement plan is really resilient.
Yeah,
But it's important to weigh the pros and cons.
it is.
And think about your own goals
Your risk tolerance.
and how this fits in with everything else.
Exactly. And it's always wise to consult with an advisor
Right?
to get some personalized guidance.
Before I jump into anything, I'm always going to talk to my advisor
Right.
to make sure
It's a good idea.
that this is the right move for me.
They can help you determine if it's right for you.
Yeah.
Yes,
You mentioned earlier gold as a hedge against inflation.
we did.
Are there other things that people are using
That's a great question.
to try to combat that?
It's something that savvy investors are exploring.
Okay.
While gold has historically been a popular hedge,
Uh-huh.
there are other assets
What are some of those?
that tend to do well during those times.
I'd love to know.
Real estate is one.
Okay.
As inflation pushes prices higher,
Mm-hmm.
the value of real estate tends to appreciate.
Okay, so owning a rental property
All right,
or investing in REITs.
exactly.
Okay.
Another asset class to consider is commodities.
Okay.
These are things like oil,
Uh-huh.
natural gas,
Okay.
agricultural products,
Right.
and their prices often rise with inflation.
As things cost more to produce,
Exactly.
the price goes up.
Right. You can invest in commodities directly
Okay.
or through ETFs.
So I don't have to have like barrels of oil
You don't have to have those.
in my backyard
No.
that track commodity indexes.
Exactly.
So there are ways to get involved
There are.
without having to store those things.
Yeah, without having to get too hands-on.
What about certain businesses?
Yeah, even certain types of businesses
Can those help?
can act as inflation hedges.
Right.
Companies that have pricing power.
Okay.
They can raise prices without losing customers.
Because people need what they're selling,
Right.
so they can weather the storm a little bit better.
They can.
So it's not just about,
specific assets.
it's about,
The underlying characteristics of companies
Oh.
and how they respond to these changes.
it's about thinking long term.
It is.
It's about strategy.
That's a key takeaway.
Yeah.
It's about building a portfolio that can adapt
Right?
to different economic environments.
So it's not just about picking the right things.
Right.
It's about,
Understanding the forces at play.
yeah, how are things going to change?
Yeah.
And how is that going to affect my investments?
And this brings us back to diversification.
Yes.
Spreading your investments across those different asset classes.
Right.
You're creating a safety net.
Yeah.
You're reducing the impact of any single investment
On the overall picture,
on your overall portfolio.
this has been so insightful.
It has.
We've really gone beyond the basics
We have.
of just what a gold IRA is.
Yay.
We've talked about all sorts of things,
We've talked about different strategies
Yeah.
for navigating retirement.
especially in today's world
Yes.
where things feel a little bit uncertain.
Right. It's all about having that knowledge and
Yeah.
being empowered.
The more I know, the better decisions I can make.
Absolutely.
Hopefully this has given people some new ideas to
Yeah.
think about.
New things to consider.
Yeah.
And I always encourage people to continue learning.
Yeah. To stay curious.
Stay curious.
To keep asking questions.
Always.
To talk to qualified professionals.
Yes. Get that advice.
Yeah. Don't go it alone.
Don't go it alone.
Whether you're looking into a gold IRA
Mhm.
or any of this other stuff that we've talked about,
Yes.
keep learning.
Keep learning.
Keep researching.
It's an ongoing process.
This has been great.
It's been my pleasure.
We've learned so much about gold IRAs and retirement planning.
And we've just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
There is.
We'll see you next time.
I look forward to it.
So it seems like gold IRAs offer a lot of potential benefits for those seeking to protect their wealth
I think that's a fair assessment.
and build a more resilient retirement plan.
But as with any investment decision,
Right.
it's crucial to weigh the pros and cons carefully.
You got to do your research.
You do.
Make sure it's right for you.
And consider how gold IRAs align with your overall financial goals and risk tolerance.
Absolutely.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution,
Go.
and it's always wise to consult with a trusted financial advisor
Right?
who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific circumstances.
Before I jump into anything, I'm always going to talk to my advisor
Right.
to make sure it's a good fit for me.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned earlier gold as a hedge against inflation.
We did.
Are there other things that people are using to try to combat that?
That's a great question, and it's something that savvy investors are often exploring.
Yeah.
While gold has historically been a popular inflation hedge,
Huh.
there are other assets that tend to perform well during periods of rising prices.
I would love to know what some of those are.
Real estate is one that often comes to mind.
Okay.
As inflation pushes prices higher,
Uh-huh.
the value of real estate tends to appreciate as well.
Okay, so like owning a rental property
Right.
or investing in REITs
Exactly.
could be a way to kind of offset that.
Precisely another asset class to consider is commodities.
Okay.
These are raw materials like oil,
Uh-huh.
natural gas,
Okay.
agricultural products.
Right, and those tend to go up in price.
Their prices often rise in tandem with inflation.
As things become more expensive to produce,
Exactly.
the price of the product goes up.
Right. You can invest in commodities directly
Okay.
or through exchange-traded funds, ETFs.
So I don't have to like stockpile a bunch of oil in my backyard.
You don't have to have barrels of oil.
Okay, good.
That tracks specific commodity indexes.
Okay, so there are ways to get involved without getting too hands-on.
There are.
What about certain businesses?
Yeah, even certain types of businesses can act as inflation hedges.
Okay, like what kind?
Companies that have pricing power,
Okay.
the ability to raise prices without losing customers.
Because people need what they
Yes,
have. They
right.
provide a necessary service.
They do.
And so they're able to kind of weather that storm a little bit better.
They can weather those inflationary periods.
So it's not just about specific assets.
Right.
It's also about the underlying characteristics
Exactly.
of the companies.
Yeah, and how they might respond
How are they going to react?
to those economic changes.
When things change,
That's a key takeaway here.
it's about thinking long-term,
It is.
strategically.
It is about strategy.
And how is this going to affect me 10 years from now?
Yeah, how is this all going to play out?
Yeah.
And it's about building a portfolio that can adapt
To those different environments.
to different economic environments.
Because we don't know what's going to happen.
We don't.
Right.
And that brings us back to diversification.
Right, which is something we talk about all the time.
It's so important.
It is.
By spreading your investments across those different asset classes,
Uh-huh.
you're essentially creating a safety net.
You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
You are not.
Right.
You're reducing the impact of any single investment
On the overall picture.
on your overall portfolio.
This has been so insightful.
It has.
We've gone way beyond the basics of just what a gold IRA is.
We have.
And we've talked about all sorts of strategies
We've talked about different strategies
for how to navigate retirement,
for navigating retirement planning,
especially in today's world,
especially in today's economic climate.
where things feel a little uncertain.
It does feel a bit uncertain.
It's all about having the knowledge
It is.
and being empowered to make the best decisions.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
And the more you understand about your different investment options,
Yeah, the more I know,
the better equipped you'll be to make those informed decisions
the better decisions I can make.
about your financial future.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So hopefully this has sparked some new ideas
Yeah.
and encouraged you to think critically
New things to consider
about what you want to do for your retirement.
about your retirement strategy.
Whether it's a gold IRA or any of these other things that we've talked about,
Yes.
keep learning,
Keep learning.
keep researching,
It's an ongoing process.
talk to those experts,
Talk to those qualified professionals.
and get the advice you need.
Absolutely don't go it alone.
This has been great.
It's been my pleasure.
We've learned so much about gold IRAs and retirement planning.
We've just scratched the surface.
I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours,
We could.
but unfortunately we're out of time.
We are.
So we'll wrap things up there.
That's good.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gold IRAs and retirement planning.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, stay curious,
Yes.
and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Ask those questions.
Yeah, talk to those experts.
Talk to a qualified professional.
All right, that's all the time we have for today.
It's been fun.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into gold IRAs and retirement planning.
My pleasure.